Hey there, I am Akhil Suresh Nair. I'm the founder and CEO of Xena Intelligence. I get to talk to a lot of startup founders, especially those in school or getting out of college, and they ask me for advice. And now, granted that I'm still pretty early in my entrepreneurial journey, I've raised $1.5 million, a little under 1 million ARR, and my startup basically works with e-commerce brands that sell on marketplaces, and we also use the data to give useful insights for those e-commerce brands. So I'm still pretty early in my e-commerce journey, but I've been at it for about 2 years now, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I just wanted to share 5 common mistakes that I've seen me and my colleagues, other startup founders, make along the way so that you don't have to. One of the first mistakes that I made was not validating the market early enough. When I got my first infusion of cash because I won a couple of business pitch competitions, I thought that now I have the money to build the world's best e commerce software with all the features that I would need. But the mistake that I made was to think that there is no point in marketing the product or promoting the product unless you have all those features built. And to be fair, just because I would want all the features, it's not necessary that one or more of my customers would also need it. When I did my MBA, we used to learn the concept of product market fit, market validation, and so on. So the first reality hit me is that I should never wait till a product is completely built out, or never wait till all the features are completely built to launch it, just because of the fact that the moment you launch it is when you really understand what features or product type that the customers are really looking for. So in my case, I have a software that works with e-commerce brands, and still, since I have experience working with almost all the softwares out there, I hoped that Xena would have all the features in all the different softwares that I work with, kind of like a one size fits all formula, or one size fits all solution to it. But little did I know that that was not necessary at that time, and because of which I hired uh, at that time a freelance developer to build these tools. And because the features obviously take a lot of time to build, it took a lot of time for the product to launch. And that, if I had the hindsight to do so, I would not even wait a day before promoting my product. And as you all know, in the e-commerce SaaS space, a lot of the delivery of the solution is given in the form of services, which our customers were completely fine with. And my assumption that our customers really wanted a holistic, completely automated solution was kind of wrong. And having an automated service that we use internally is a great solution, and that they're very, very happy with. But the very fact that I was naive at that time, thinking that only a product which is fully built out deserves to be launched, was a big, big, big mistake. In hindsight, what I would do is that I would constantly launch whatever product I have in place, so that I can get feedback, so that I can keep improving it. It is obvious that not all features are made equal. The customers require different things, they're happy with different things. And another point to note is that not everyone is your customer. You have your ideal customer profile, or ICPs, who you really want to target, who you really want to cater to. Along with the fact that in a space such as e-commerce space, where there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other softwares that compete in this space, it is very important to make sure that whatever product feature you build is differentiated enough, and also it is so valuable that the customers would stick with you along the course of the journey. And we at Xena are very fortunate to have a very, very high retention rate, because our customers love us, our products, our services, and the results that we provide. This brings me to the second mistake that I made, which is to overcomplicate the product. I wanted my software to be so slick, so good, so smooth, that I missed out on certain important aspects of it. So, one example is that I really wanted our software to have a smooth animation as it goes through the different analytics that these e-commerce brands use. But little did I realize that while it is a great, great, great thing to have, it's very time consuming, and there's a lot of investment and resources that is needed to make a software or dashboard slick. And obviously, my standards are high as a CEO, as a visionary. It was my intention to have the best possible out there, but I did not realize that a majority of the customers really did not care so much about the animations or even the way that the data is presented, as long as it is yielding results. And that, I think, stopped me pretty early on from promoting the product as hard as I possibly can. In the in the journey to make a product as good as possible. Now, of course, it is very slick. It loads easily. It integrates easily. There are a lot of features, but it took years and years to get there. And if I were to do everything all over again, I would, like I said earlier, not wait for a product to be completely developed before I start putting it out in the market, to see and gauge the interest, and also to get another important data point, which is to know how much the customers are willing to pay for such a product or a service. So I think second mistake I made, and I think everyone should avoid, is to strive to overcomplicate the product. Even the best of the best products, hardware or software, get into trouble. They make mistakes, they learn from the mistakes, and they move on. And the best thing of being in a startup environment is that you have the luxury to make mistakes early on. You have the luxury to iterate, and you have the capability to adapt to whatever feedback that you get. And that, I think, is the best feeling in the world. That is the best thing in the world. And I think you should take advantage of the fact that you should keep in mind to not to overcomplicate a product. Which brings me to my third mistake that I made, was to hire too quickly and too rashly. In the initial phase, it was obviously just me, but I realized that since I was doing everything from managing customers, bringing in new leads, closing deals, raising funds, participating in competitions, managing the website, and every task that you need to do, I realized that it is very important for me to get one of the first people onboarded to my company, so that I can help expand it further, delegate a lot of the tasks, and also make sure that I spend more time in taking forward the vision of the company, and also spend more time in important things like closing key deals and reaching out to key stakeholders. And so one of the first mistakes I think I made was to be really desperate in finding that first person to join the company. So I spoke to this person who seemed very interested to join the company, and I was very excited. He spoke really well. He seemed to understand the vision of the company. He seems to be a great fit for us. But once I decided to hire him, I had all these plans made in my head on how we can work together, what all things we can work next, and so on. But just a day before joining, he let me know that he found another job offer that he chose to accept, and that it hurt me really badly, in the sense that I hinged my expectations of quick growth on that person. And it did demoralize me for a few days, if not a few weeks. It was really hurtful. If I were to look back, I should have been more proactive in reaching out to more people to see who's a better fit, instead of just relying on one person. Fortunately enough, he told about this opportunity to another person, Izu, who joined me as one of my first employees, and is still is a part of the company. He heads the India operations. Izu has been perhaps the biggest success stories, or the greatest thing that I've done for Xena. At the moment he came in, he recognized the vision of the company. He was able to understand me, and he was able to build a whole team of more than 20 people back in India, where he's based out of. And so that first key hire that happened to me, I got very lucky. But if I were to do it again, I would spend more time in getting to know the people, in getting to understand that skill sets are important, but those things can be learned along the way. It is the mindset which is perhaps even more important when you hire one of the first teams, and not just Izu, who joined me as my head of India operations, but also the next few key hires for sales and business analytics and data analytics and customer success. They were also I've been very lucky to get a network of those people. I'm sure there were a couple who didn't work out, but largely it did for me in my situation. I think at that time, when I take the interview of a person, and when I speak to the person, I typically tend to ask more personal questions about their family, about their upbringing, about their viewpoints, about their passions, about their hobbies. The way in which they speak about these things will gives a very good idea on how they would typically perform in an environment where they find their contributions valuable and worthwhile. And so hiring too quickly was another mistake that I made. It's very important to take your time, not be desperate, and know that while, as from an organizational perspective, people are resources, I'm a resource, everyone's a resource, you should also realize that they're humans, and humans have far more greater capabilities when they are put in a situation where they really like being in, and they can vastly outperform your expectations, or even their own expectations at times, when it comes to the right environment. So as an early stage startup founder, it is very important to spend time in understanding and hiring your first few key hires, because that will determine the success of failure of your startup. The fourth mistake that I made was to not have um, financial discipline pretty early on. So when you raised a lot of funds and when you get a lot of money in your account, you obviously feel like spending as much as possible in every single direction to help grow your business. That means hiring consultants, hiring agencies, trying out different aspects, including PR, including lead generation, including product development, including hiring certain people as well, which can tend to get very expensive. And the moment you get funding, I think people will know it and they'll reach out to you with different opportunities to help your company grow. And as a first time founder, there were a few mistakes that I made. For example, hiring a PR firm was an absolute waste of time, because after a few years, I realized that I am my best PR, my company is my best PR, and the way that we speak, interact with the outside world is the only thing that determines how well people perceive the signals that you give out. Hiring a PR firm in my situation was a waste of money at that time. And there were a few other tools, softwares that I've used. But granted, I knew for a fact that most of the tools might not work out because we were testing it out. But it is very important to have that financial discipline early on. It is very important to know your numbers, how much money you're getting, how much money is leaving, what are the levers that you can pull to really understand concepts like runway or customer acquisition costs, which I'm not a finance person. I've never claimed to be an expert in it, but it is very important to be aware of these numbers, because it is these numbers that determine the decisions that you make in terms of key hires and key spending parameters that will help your company grow. So that's another mistake that I made, not having financial discipline. And I've now learned that it is very important to do so. It's very important to know how every dollar is spent. It's very important to know how every dollar is expensed. So for example, on my credit card, I've kept live notifications that even every time there's a transaction greater than $1, I get a notification. And so I go through each of them. I keep a very close eye on expenses. And also there are a lot of tools out there like Forecaster, as complicated as great companies like Forecaster, as well as Excel sheets are a great form to keep track of the expenses as well, especially early on. I also have a part-time CFO who helps me with the projections, and also it also becomes a very key contention during investor due diligence meetings where they talk about your company and your numbers. And if you have all the numbers in your fingertip, I think it shows a great sign about how disciplined you are and how you are very well aware of what's going on in your company. The fifth and probably one of the most glaring mistakes that I made was to underestimate the power of networking. I am an introvert person by nature. I like to stay at my house. When I go out to meet people, it drains my social battery. I like to be peaceful for majority of the time. But I realized that as a founder, it's very important to put yourselves out there. It's very important to get other people excited, and the only way that you can get other people excited is to meet them face to face, talk to them, and share what you are working on. And so in the early stages, I used to, like I said, stay at home, be as comfortable as possible, stay in front of my screen, clack away on emails. But I realized how important it is to network. Now, thanks to LinkedIn, I have a sizable follower list on LinkedIn, which I've built over the years. And so it gets relatively easy for me to connect to people who are not physically, geographically near me. But since I have the opportunity, I constantly aim to travel to different events, pitch competitions, and networking events, and make sure that I have some face time with some people. And of course, people come in different shades. Some people are helpful, some people not so much. Some people are looking at something to get from you, and some people genuinely want to help. And so I've been very fortunate in terms of finding investors, shareholders, customers, by reaching out to people who genuinely care. And after you speak to a lot of people, you kind of are able to nail or understand who, or identify the kind of people who could potentially help you out. So one of the mistakes that I made early on, and I wish I could get a do-over, was to participate in more events, reach out to more people, and put yourself out there more, so that you can build an organization that's valuable not just in the profits that it brings, but also in the number of people who root for you, cheer for you, who know about you, and genuinely support you. And so to recap, the 5 mistakes is to not understand the market, overcomplicate the product, not have financial discipline, hire too quickly, and underestimating the power of networking. So these are all something that I've learned from my experience. So if you like this video, please do share it with other entrepreneurs, and see you the next time.